This is Unpivot, the show for Excel and Power BI fans and anyone who loves chatting about data. I'm Win Hopkins.
I'm Mark Proctor.
I'm Giles Mail.
And I'm Deb Ashby.
Hi,
Welcome, Deb.
Welcome, Deb.
Hi, I'm back.
Welcome back.
My third appearance. I feel very privileged.
Most frequent pod guest.
Yes.
Exactly. I know.
Very
I'm
honoured.
very honoured.
Now, Deb did ask me where's Sue gone, and I should know because she said last week, and I then said it's something like Dante or somewhere like that. Did she say? Is there a real place called Dante? Have I made that up?
Running a marathon?
No, I think she's on holiday.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah. I'll see. At least I knew she was on holiday. I don't feel as bad now. Giles really wasn't listening.
Hi, Sue.
Good.
Sorry, Sue.
Sue.
But I bet on her holiday, she probably thinks, "Oh, let's get up at 7 and go for a 26-mile run."
She's so that type of person. Yeah. She's not a lay on the sun lounger type. It's going to be running.
No, don't think so. Which I guess leads us into the topic, the elephant in the room that's hanging around your neck, which is a nice lanyard. But if you bring the lanyard up a little bit, this is Deb bringing up the fancy medal, and that is the London Marathon.
It is my disastrous London Marathon.
I can just say I'm really looking forward to this because we're so used to Sue just being so annoyingly like, I just casually ran 3 marathons this week and I loved every minute. I can't wait to hear your story.
You want to hear the struggle? You want to hear the abject struggle that was my marathon?
So much pleasure from someone else being like, it was horrible.
Yeah, tell me it's not worth doing.
It is 100%. Just don't do it. Like if you get into running or it ever crosses your mind, maybe you go out for a run one day and you do like a pretty good 5K. Mark, I know you're, getting it on with your 5Ks. Don't ever think to yourself, I'm going to enter the ballot for the London Marathon. Just don't do it. Nobody do it. It is the worst few hours of your life.
Jeez.
Like, just don't do it.
Was it good for like 10 minutes?
It wasn't good at all. Like they tell you lies before you run this marathon because everybody goes, it's going to be the best day of your life. It's so fun and the crowds are great. And the crowds are great. It is definitely not the best day of your life. In fact, it was probably one of my worst days. It was pain from start to finish. And I was going great guns until 10 kilometers. I was on pace. I was like, okay, this is good. It's hot out here. That was one of the biggest problems with the marathon this year was the heat. It was like 28 degrees on the course, which is way too hot to be running anything. There was people passing out all over the place. It was a bit of a disaster with the heat. But yeah, 10 kilometers, I was on pace. I was going great. And then it all just went wrong because I got an upset stomach. And so I had to stop at every single Portaloo on the way. And there's a queue outside each one. So you have to stand there. And at one point, which became very comical, and I wish I'd recorded this, after 5 stops, and I thought to myself, this is it now for me. This is it for the rest of the marathon. I'm going to be stopping at every Portaloo. And then I ran out of toilet paper because I wasn't planning on stopping like 100 times, So I was running past Tesco's. So I jumped over the barrier, ran into Tesco's. I'm standing in line in my marathon gear, like with my bib number and everything, with like toilet roll in my hand, like waiting to pay in line because I'm so British and I couldn't say to people, hi, I'm actually running the marathon outside there. Can I go first? So I just stood patiently in line, waiting for my turn, paid for my toilet paper and then carried on. So yeah, and it was like that the entire way. And my only thought the entire way around was, where's the next toilet? So to say I was happy to finish that marathon is an understatement.
I've got awesome visions of you with a pack of like nine DUREX. That's wrong brand. DUREX. What is it?
ANDREX.
What's the ANDREX?
You just calm down there, Giles. It wasn't like that.
ANDREX. Anyway, that's the story that I had again. Ruined it now.
Well, you can't run around with the toilet roll, so I had to buy the little packs of tissues, the little Kleenex tissues. And I thought to myself, all of these spectators, they're all standing there with sweets and donuts and drinks. Bring toilet paper. If you're a spectator, bring a roll of toilet paper and hold it out. That's my advice. So it's horrible, but I finished. So there we go.
What is your time?
Without toilet stops or with?
No, with. Let's go with and without.
I'm counting without, okay? Because I paused my watch every single time I was standing in line for the loo. So I was actually dead on. So 5:29. I'd planned between 5 and 5:30. But without, you could add an hour and a half onto that. Because I stopped 12 times and it was like 10 minutes a time to get into the loo.
At least you had a rest, right? You had a little break. You know, you could sit down for a little while.
Trust me, I wasn't resting. I was just, everything was tense. Slip me in that toilet.
Why did you keep going? I think I'd have given up.
Got to.
Because I wasn't just going to stop.
You were there. You were there.
I was there. I was doing it. I thought, oh God, just carry on and put up with it. It's a few hours of your life, you know, at the end of the day, and then you never have to do it again. So I'm proud of myself for getting to the end.
Well done.
Yeah, brilliant. Well done.
Before we move on, because you were meant to run it last year, you then got COVID like a couple of days before.
Yep.
So did you keep? So you trained up to last year's marathon. So you did all the training, all the preparation, and then didn't do any of it, and then didn't run the real thing. So did you keep training throughout the whole year, or did you just stop and then?
No, I kept running throughout the whole year. And then, like, my personal life got a bit crazy towards the end of last year. So there was sort of a period of about 2 months where I just didn't do anything. But then at the start of the year, I carried on training again. So, yeah. So I got up to like 35 kilometers in my training, which is sort of what you sort of generally do. That's like the longest distance you'll run in your training. So I was ready for it. You know, I had no problems with my lungs or the legs or anything like that. It was just my stomach and the heat.
Wow.
But we did it.
We've started strong this episode.
Good effort. Good effort.
I can't believe you didn't share any of those stories on LinkedIn. All you had was pictures of triumph, and you like running and like you saw the picture on LinkedIn. Right? It was all about success and winning and being a hero. And now we realise what cost success and winning, being a hero, really comes with.
I saved that stuff for Facebook, Mark. I put all the grisly details on Facebook.
At least you didn't add like, here's what I learned about leadership and team. You know.
I learned absolutely nothing. Nothing about anything during that marathon.
Perseverance. Learned about perseverance and not giving up.
Perseverance and not giving up. That's right, Mark. I like your spin. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But, you know, anybody who finished on Sunday deserves their medal because that was horrendously brutal conditions out there. It was horrible. So hot.
Yeah. Do you reckon you're inspiring anybody?
No.
This is our goal now. We're apparently with the inspirational podcast. So,
you will have inspired some TikTokers.
Somebody not to give up. Oh, speaking of TikToking,
exactly.
Giles, what's happening? Come on, you teased us like 2 episodes ago with.
Oh, it's
TikTok.
happening. But hey, it's happening. I did some more test recording yesterday. I've done a little bit more this morning. It's going to take a little bit of time because we're trying to make sure we've got like a collection of things to release over the first month.
Okay.
I actually think I'm quite good at the thing that I'm doing that only Deb knows so far. This is a top secret.
There we go. Excellent.
Deb, would you agree? And we don't want to know what.
I mean, it's different.
It's definitely different. Giles is good at the things that he's doing.
Different.
It's different.
Deb's looking forward to my releasing this. I think for her own amusement.
Yeah. It's a good.
I am very interested to see how well it goes down generally on TikTok.
I'm going to get so much abuse, but
I'm
here for it.
Can we have a special like a special preview episode whereby maybe like
premiere
like we will record ourselves watching your video on TikTok live,
watch party,
get our honest reactions,
like a reaction video.
We can do that.
Yeah.
You need to have Deb back again for that because Deb's like TikTok queen, so we need to.
Don't be stealing my crown over there, Giles. I'll be very upset.
I reckon you're safe.
So, but before you launch or the day you launch, I don't know if we just get if you just play it for us on the screen, and then we can all have an honest reaction. That would.
Yeah. All right, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And what other news is out?
Oh, news,
Wind's
wins frozen. That's
Frozen.
news.
We can keep going.
Oh,
with
he's
the news.
back.
Oh,
Hang
he's
on.
back.
Hang on, you're back. You're back.
All right. I've got so many issues going on with my technicals today. So apologies if stuff happens. I can't hear the jingles. So even when I play Giles's new jingle, I won't even be able to hear it. So, there's all sorts of weird stuff happening.
Deb doesn't have a jingle. Giles
I
does.
know.
It's not about you as such,
annoying.
Giles. It's just to keep you. It's just sort of, it's to do with you, but not about you.
Okay.
So there we go.
Cryptic.
Teaser. Keep the listeners
Love
listening.
it.
In terms of news, I've got a question for Giles. So yesterday on LinkedIn, he had a video. No, you had a video all about people keeping up and keeping pace with things.
Yeah.
Following on from someone. So was it Eric Patterson gave a talk in your community? Elliot Patterson, that's it, and gave a talk about the Lambda helper functions and stuff like that. And you said how important it is for people to keep up. So I kind of got a follow-up question. Do you think that because the majority of people won't keep up, right? That's just a fact. We know that's going to happen. So do you think that this is likely to create almost a two-level situation? Those people that do even attempt to keep up and therefore will understand some of these new functions, how this stuff works, and then people who don't keep up at all. So therefore you'll end up with almost two layers of when people put on CVs, we want somebody with advanced Excel skills. Actually, you might get somebody who actually has advanced Excel skills, or you might get somebody who doesn't have advanced Excel skills. And how do you think that might cause a problem in the real world?
So I'm really clear on my position on this. And some people defended against a position I didn't hold or state in my comments, which was weird. So yeah, I think there's already a two-tier kind of system already, but I just think the scale of the difference between the people that are experts and those that are casual users will be even bigger. The main point that I tried to share in my video was this: like, I have huge empathy for just average users. And Deb and I spoke about this after I posted it. Like, average finance professionals is a very different average to average users that like Deb might be engaging with on TikTok. The main line of my whole 5-minute rant was, if you want to still be relevant in Excel in X number of years, if you want to still be adding value with it, you are gonna have to find a way to keep up. Doesn't mean that you have to master everything, but if you just sit completely still and you don't improve, you are going to be so far behind in another year or two. So it's absolutely not everybody must go and learn Lambda and Let and Python and blah, blah, blah. It's like, if you want to be like a professional Excel user, you have no choice, in my opinion. And it just came out of that session with Elliot because he was doing such a good job of breaking by row and by column map down to intro level. But even intro level, if you've never seen this stuff before, is just mind-bendingly different to anything else that you've probably done in Excel. So that was my kind of nuanced answer.
Because my thought on this was, and I probably mentioned this on the podcast before, and I have this thing that I call the curse of the lowest common skill set, which is where somebody comes in, they start a role, they're really good at what they do. They understand Power Query and Let and Lambda and everything, and they take their work and they reduce it down to whatever you can reduce hours of work down to a couple of clicks, and they do that, and then they have all this spare time and they're a bit bored, and someone gives them a few projects. And eventually, either the company gives them new projects, they move on to new roles or things, or they just leave. But when they move on to those other things, somebody else comes in and takes their role, and the recruitment person just says, we want somebody with advanced Excel skills, which is VLOOKUP and pivot tables. That's what people generally mean, even though that's probably now a beginner or intermediate skill. So then that person then comes in, and they don't understand the things that the previous person did. So therefore, they end up having to redesign everything and rebuild everything back from this kind of VLOOKUP and pivot table world, which means that it doesn't matter how good you are in companies, unless they train people, it will always revert back to this lowest common skill set. and that companies then don't get the benefit of actually recruiting good people who know what they're doing. So I think that you'll end up with those kind of scenarios and the gap to what the difference is between the amount of improvement that somebody can make and the amount of fall that can happen when you recruit somebody who doesn't have an equivalent skill set is, I think, just becoming bigger and bigger.
I think that they're going to have to, like, organizations will just start to be more specific in the job description. So instead of just saying, we want somebody with advanced Excel skills, it's going to have to be more specific. We want somebody who knows how to construct complex lambdas or lets or whatever, so, and that needs to go into the job description each time so that you can sort of get a little bit of consistency and you don't have that problem. So I think, again, organizations are just going to need to be more specific, not just advanced Excel, because as we've discussed many times, what exactly does that mean? Nobody really knows. It could mean anything.
Do you think hiring managers actually understand what those things are? Because if you've got somebody that comes in
This
who's
is
good,
the problem.
you don't necessarily say to your line manager, "Hey, I'm going to do all these things." You just use the skills that you've got. So I suspect that.
Agree. But I think that's where the heads of department are going to have to come in. So, if you've got a finance team, hopefully your head of finance is going to know what's required to do those jobs, and that's where they're going to have input into that job description. And that's how I see it would go forward.
When you do find like a head of a department or whatever, the head of finance that does get it, it makes the world of difference. So I'm working with one of the guys who's like one of the top esports players, and that he's brought full stack in to train their team. And because he's so like in that zone of understanding modern Excel, but also having like enough self-awareness to understand it's not the only way, it just makes everything else so much easier. But I think it is rare to find a head of finance or a head of a department like that really gets all the kind of differences with, intermediate, beginner, expert nowadays.
Yeah. You want your person who's leaving, if you are the manager who's listening to this, you definitely want them to write some of the job spec. If they're doing a technical Excel job, because they may have done all sorts of crazy stuff. So you don't know what they're using. I was on related to a post on Reddit or something the other day. Somebody said that their manager didn't want them using Power Query because he didn't understand it and didn't trust it, and that was decision made for him. He wasn't allowed to use it anymore, even though he'd automated his process and got it down to a few hours. He now has to do it manually.
So
this is always going to be the problem, isn't it? Even if you have a spreadsheet that's got lambdas in it, things like that, when you're sharing that spreadsheet with other people need to be able to understand what's going on. So again, this is where you're going to have a problem, is that whilst it may, it might filter down to people with lower skill levels in Excel, they're going to click on a cell, see this lambda in there and not have a clue what it's doing. So I think it's going to become quite intimidating for a lot of people who don't have those more in-depth advanced skills. So
that's probably my
problem.
That's like my biggest worry, I think, is it's probably intimidating now, but give it another year or two, because I'm going to assume Microsoft are not going to stop. I mean, I'm way behind on like Rejections and other stuff. Give it another year or two. That's what I was saying, or trying to say in that LinkedIn post. It was like I really empathize with people where if you're not just looking at this every day or every week, Excel just looks like a different thing. I mean, it's a proper programming tool now in the grid, which is very different.
This is the thing, right? It's Excel's curse because it's so easy and intuitive to use. People don't treat it as a programming platform, and therefore there's this expectation that anything you build, anybody who knows Excel can use. And that is just, it's just, if you just said, I know I build something in Python, you wouldn't expect sort of somebody who just knew it or plays with Python for an hour a month would know how to debug an entire Python script. So, but there's just that expectation that it's just Excel,
Yeah.
And the people who are in the management. Oh, sorry, go on, Deb.
Sorry, go on, Win. Go on.
Oh, I was going to say, so the people in senior management roles and stuff like that now, they learned Excel when Excel didn't change for 15 years. They learned it back Excel 2003 to up to 2007 type, and then, the rapid change in the last 10 years is just different kettle of fish. Sorry, Deb, go on.
No, I was just going to say, the one thing you always have to remember is that most people do not love Excel like we do. Do you know what I mean? They don't care about Excel. It's just a tool. They go into the office, they sit down, they want to get their tasks done. They don't care about Excel. They're not interested in spending their evenings learning how Lambda works so that they can make their life easier. You know, they just don't have an interest in it. You know, so you're always going to have that problem where people just they use it as a tool at work, and they just want to know how to do, you know, the few things they need to do efficiently, and they just don't have any interest in anything else, VBA, you know, Lambdas, whatever it might be. So I always that's what kind of my response was to your post, is because I always come from it from that perspective, and it comes mainly from working in corporate London for 15 years in different firms and seeing how people who don't necessarily work in finance use Excel, and it's so basic. You know, it's just they just want to do what they need to do, and that's it. There is zero interest there to learn more. They just want their life to be easier.
Well, it's like one of my most popular videos is the title is like how you split a cell in Excel, and you know, you just get loads of comments going, this isn't how you split a cell. That's how you split a value in a cell into 2 cells. How do I split a cell? And you're like, you can't split a cell. It's not Word. It's not PowerPoint. Right? The columns and the rows mean something. Like that's the cell is like I'm going to say the atomic unit, but you know, the smallest unit you can get. You can't split it any further. Why can't you do it in Excel? You can in PowerPoint.
It's because you can merge a cell, so they assume you can do
exactly.
the opposite.
So I've got all these like ranty comments. This video isn't about splitting cells. I'm like, it is. It's just not your definition of a cell. And you get that a lot because people want to use. I think, I need something in a grid layout, so therefore I'm going to use Excel. And that's the way a lot of people just think about Excel. It's just a grid.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't need to get into anything more than that. It's such an easy entry. Right. My 2 lovely things from this week was, number 1, accidentally removing myself from a Teams channel by making myself a member, and then realized I couldn't add myself back to the owner level because I was only a member. So that's a nice little learning. So yeah.
You can't promote yourself, can you?
No.
Were you the only owner?
No, that had to contact one of my colleagues who was an owner to get me back in. But what if I was the only owner? What would I do? So I accidentally changed myself to member. I went to change myself back and I couldn't because I'm not the owner anymore. So yeah, there we go. And I'm trying to learn how to use a left-handed mouse, which is really annoying.
Oh God, why are you doing that?
Why?
My hand started cramping up last week, so I thought, I'll try using this hand instead. So yeah, I know, it's really hard. I've dragged 5 different folders into subfolders already this week.
That feels like the worst.
If my hand was cramping, I wouldn't think to myself, I'm going to use the left hand for my mouse. I'd just try and fix my hand.
Well, you got to let it down. Yeah. These things catch up with us as we get a little bit older. You know, all you youngsters, you'll pay the price someday. Have breaks, people. Have breaks. That's all I can say. So left hand mouse.
Just picking up on one thing there, Wynne, about dragging. I mean, just to ask a question. So about accidentally dragging folders into other places. Okay, of the 4 of us, have any of us accidentally dragged a file into the wrong place and then not realised where you've dragged it, and therefore you don't really know how to get it back or where it goes? So you just kind of leave it there in the hope that it will then, at some point, you will work it out. There should really be some kind of like warning message that says, you've dragged a folder, you know, like a perfect use for AI. You've dragged this folder called finance reports into this other folder that's called shopping lists. Are you sure you want to do this? And you were like, no, that was a complete accident. Why would everyone want to do that? But instead now you accidentally click and drag something. Oh, what was that? Where'd it go?
Or the dreaded 48,000 items are now being moved. And you're like, oh, what did I do? What did I just drag? What have we done? And you say cancel, but it's moved like 8,000 items. And then you've got to work out whether you've copied them or deleted them.
Copying 100,000 items. Oh.
The other one is, the SharePoint one. You've just deleted 5,000 items from SharePoint. Are you sure you wanted to do that? So it's like, I can't remember.
That comes up on OneDrive as well.
Top tip: the Everything Toolbar. This is a great tool, but this is a great tool for searching for stuff. Way better than Windows search. Turn off Windows search. It frees up loads of gigabytes of space on your computer, and the Everything Toolbar finds everything instantly. It's awesome. So check that out.
What is it?
Where do you find it?
Third-party tool called
Oh.
Everything. It's free open source stuff. It's called Everything Toolbar. It's just really good.
Oh,
Brian Julius of LinkedIn recommended it a couple of years
going to
ago.
write that down.
It's
What is it?
excellent. It just sits
Everything
on-
Toolbar.
Yeah, it just sits on your taskbar next to your search, and it's just it just finds everything instantly. No, when you search for something in Windows search, it's this like spinning wheel, searching your C drive, then it searches your next folder. Everything Toolbar, instant. And Windows indexing apparently for search. If you turn that off, it frees up massive. I think it freed up about 8 gig off my hard drive.
Wow.
Okay. Don't know why. but
Interesting. I'm
So
going
there
to
you
check
go.
that out.
I've got one bit of news just before I'm assuming we'll move on to our main topic, which I think we're all very
I've got
excited
one
about.
rant. But,
Have
yeah.
you? Oh, you got a rant. Oh, good. Okay. So my news is that Pippa and I have fallen out, my dog. She woke up yesterday morning, I think it was, and literally it was like she'd broken her leg. She couldn't walk. She was limping. She was being very dramatic. And obviously I'm a dog owner, so I got very worried. Called the vet, was seeing the vet in 4 hours. She carried on acting like she'd broken her leg until the hour I had to take her to the vet, when she suddenly was fine. Took her to the vet, 70 quid later, got out the vet. It was really embarrassing in the vet because I was like, I promise you, 2 hours ago, I thought she was like half dead. And he was like, there's literally nothing wrong with her, but we'll give her some painkillers. Got out the vet,
do
she started
this.
limping again. I was like, what? You are taking the mickey. So I'm not talking
My
to
dog does this as well. Like she'll be walking normally, and then all of a sudden, a paw will be up, and she'll be limping. And I'm like, but you've just walked
done
through the
nothing.
kitchen. Like,
Yeah.
what has happened? Like, you haven't stood on a splinter or a stone, or you're on tiles. Why are we suddenly limping? And then, like 15 minutes later, she's just back to walking normally.
outrageous.
Very-
I think she's got
very
drugged.
dramatic.
Just one of the painkillers that she's having me on. Outrageous.
Well-
70 quid.
While we're on the topic of dogs, so the other day I was searching for something in the cupboard. I got the cooking chocolate, which is on top of the thing. I put it on the side. Okay.
Oh,
I then
God.
kept searching through the cupboard, didn't find the thing, closed the cupboard. And then suddenly my wife was like, where's the cooking chocolate gone? And for anyone who doesn't know, like cooking chocolate, anything with high cocoa content is like poison. It poisons.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's really bad. So I had to take the dog to the vets for them to be, so they vomit it all out. And then they had this like carbon-based medicine they then have to to collect all the poisons and stuff. And it's like, just 5 seconds of I'll put that on there. Oh, it's not in there. And suddenly it's like,
Exactly the same happened to us. There was chocolate on the bar of chocolate on the coffee table, and it wasn't at our house, it was at somebody else's house. And she went in there and ate the chocolate bars. And then we were like, oh God, pick her up, off to the vet. And as you said, they make them be sick, and it's all like a big drama. It's really dangerous chocolate for dogs.
Yeah. Win doesn't have these problems because he doesn't have a dog. So he's just there like, mugs. It's your own fault.
Yeah, but you've got kids.
Yeah, they're sick from chocolate sometimes. Don't have to rush them to the doctors though. Can I have my rant now?
It's time for the
Go
rant.
for it.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, so I was happily minding my own business on a lovely little day in Excel, and I open it up, and there in front of me is a big banner saying, and I'll read it out because I screenshotted it. Work together efficiently. Get more done with chat, calls, and meetings all in one app. Microsoft Teams. Open Teams now.
God.
Why would I just click on an open? Oh, I'll just have a look just in case anybody's messaged me. Is that why I would? Why? So, adverts for other Microsoft products inside Excel.
What are you doing to us? You've got CoPilot jabbing you in the eye every 2
Really?
seconds. Sorry,
Yeah.
I love CoPilot. Thanks, Microsoft.
Well, I quit CoPilot about a month ago because the skittle, they call it, the little icon that pops up, that kept getting in the way of where I wanted to click my mouse. So I just threw my toys and sort of got rid of my
I mean, you can hide it.
Microsoft. Yeah, now, Excel you can now. I think they updated that recently. But yesterday I was on a chat and Ken Pulls just was absolutely raging about how Word CoPilot was getting in his way all the time. It was hilarious. And I was just like, yeah, it's taken him a month, but yeah, he feels my pain. So
Can we have to get Ken on at some point, or he's literally going to like hunt me down and swear at me again.
Yeah. Next time I'm out.
Speaking of CoPilot, I might as well talk to you about an interesting post that I had last night on LinkedIn about my CoPilot course. So I've got a CoPilot course on LinkedIn Learning. And bear in mind, this was done like 8 months ago that I did this course. So obviously CoPilot has changed a lot since then. And I log on to LinkedIn last night and there's a big long post and I'm tagged in it. And it's basically they've taken a video from the CoPilot course, put it there, just this big long rant about, I'm trying to do things in CoPilot and it's not the same as what's in the video. And I'm like, this is the problem with CoPilot, isn't it? Because it changes so often that courses are going out of date so quickly, and you don't schedule updates every 3 months. It might be every 6 months or whatever. So I do feel their pain. They're just trying to learn CoPilot and what they're seeing is, different to what's in the course. And the other thing is that they're getting inconsistencies. And this has been my biggest bugbear with CoPilot is that you can type the same prompt 3 different times and get 3 different responses from CoPilot. It might give you a formula for one response. It might actually just do it in the spreadsheet in another. So like when you're creating courses specifically for CoPilot, it's so difficult because, you don't know exactly what they're going to get when they type in exactly the same prompt as you, so it's just very difficult to put together CoPilot courses and I refuse to do it anymore. Until it's stable.
The other thing that people have mentioned recently with CoPilot, and this hasn't impacted me, and I've just seen other people comment on it, is that there's links into OneDrive or somewhere that those links are now broken because it doesn't go straight to that link. Instead, it shows you an advert for CoPilot, which means that you've got these solutions that work, and now they don't work because Microsoft is showing an advert for CoPilot. So that hasn't happened to me. That is pure. It's just other people's stories. It sounds like it's being pushed heavily. The thing that I think we need is, because let's face it, I put in a prompt into CoPilot and I get an answer. Someone else in the world will put in exactly the same prompt and we'll get a different answer. And so you've got all these like 30 prompts, however many different answers, but one of them is a definitive answer. Like one of them is a good answer. What we need is like a website that has like all the right answers from CoPilot, so that whatever prompt you were going to put in, you can go to it and go like, this is the right one. This one actually works. And then you can use that one rather than, because everyone's just putting in the same prompts and getting the same stuff out. And no, it doesn't work for creative things, but things like Excel and code and all that stuff, we really just need one resource, which will give you the correct AI response. I believe it's called a blog post, actually. I think that's what I'm referring to here. A blog or a website.
Video, blog post.
The internet, Google. I think that's what it used to be. Yeah, a book,
because they don't use the failure of responses or the success of responses to train anything. So there's no feedback loop to Microsoft in that way. The only feedback loop they get, I think you can put a little thumbs up if an answer's right. So if somebody makes the effort to go, I like that solution, I think that's it. I don't think there's any other particular they're not training off your actual responses, so it's not getting smarter because of that.
It's still not at a point yet where I would consider using it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just not. I just don't use it at the moment. Maybe it will get better, but no, I don't use it at all.
I used ChatGPT last week for some PowerPoint VBA code. Okay, so this is reasonably niche. VBA in PowerPoint. So I was searching for some VBA, and it gave me an answer, and it didn't work. So are you sure that's correct? It kept telling me yes, it's correct. It never worked. So I went back to some work I did in 2007, where I used some PowerPoint VBA code, and I copy and pasted my own code, and it worked. And I remember, because it took me a really long time to create that code because there were no resources anywhere. So I actually had to work it out for myself, which means that because there were no resources anywhere, CoPilot has got no idea about these things either. So my work from 2017 is the definitive work about this piece on PowerPoint VBA that it's not published anywhere. Nobody knows anything. Oh yes, my secret bit of knowledge that only I have.
I've got an interesting, because I use ChatGPT a lot, and yesterday ChatGPT, I was trying to get some kind of inspiration for some slides for some training I'm doing soon, and it said to me, do you want me to build the slides for you? Which I didn't actually realize it could build slide decks. But for the first time I said, yes, please, and I talked through the whole scope, and then it said, right, I'll get back to you in 24 hours. And I was like, I had a full-on conversation. I was like, hang on a minute. You've never said that to me before. Why are you coming back to me in 24 hours? It's like, oh, great question. Let me explain. For bigger tasks like making slide decks, and you've shared your brand colors and everything, I need a bit longer to think it through. Which so far hasn't worked, because I keep saying, like, are you done yet? And it's like, oh, I'm nearly there. I feel like it's like a junior employee that's like, yep, nearly there. Just give me an hour. I'm like, are you done yet? It's like, nope, just a little bit of formatting on some of the slides. Like, give me the slides.
How many slides were you creating? Like, 'cause I actually think it's quite good in PowerPoint, like to create presentations really quickly with your branding and stuff like that. It's actually really good. I've never seen it come up with, you have to wait 24 hours. That just seems like excessive.
This is in.
Oh, I thought you meant in PowerPoint.
No, this is what blew me away, because I didn't even expect it. I'm in ChatGPT on the web. And it said to me, I can make the slides for you. I was like, oh. But my expectation is it's going to give me a PowerPoint output at some stage when it stops faffing around and making excuses.
Oh, so it's ChatGPT that took long.
ChatGPT.
Yeah. It's going to be really annoying when it's not quite right. And you got to, can I just change screen one? Yep.
Furious. Yeah.
Let us know in 24 hours if they're good.
I will. Yeah, if it's good, I'll definitely let you know.
You know how people keep saying that you should treat AI as like an assistant? Well, I think AI must have read that enough times. Like, oh, you want me to behave like an assistant? Yes, I will get that back to you in 24 hours. Are you done yet? Nope.
An incompetent one.
Yes.
Well, you should never overcommit, should you? You should never say you can get back in an hour if it, just buy yourself an extra bit of time and then overachieve by delivering it in 5 hours. So,
never commit to anything.
I could have done it myself by now. It's what I would have said to a human.
Okay, let's get into the question. Let's go. And for Giles, who's been moaning about the jingle being question of the week, and I'm going to play it. I cannot hear the jingle because of my technical issues. So you're going to have to give me a thumbs up when it starts, and then just do that when it stops. Just say cut it. Okay.
Yeah.
So because it goes on for 30 seconds, we don't want to listen to it for 30 seconds. So here we go.
It's the question of the moment. It's the question of the moment.
Right, cutting it. There we go.
That moment, question of the moment.
Question of the moment, just for Giles, because we can't complain.
Generic,
you can never say it should be a fortnight. Can't say it should be.
I have no more complaints. You have
question of the moment. There we go. That's my. I don't pay for a Suno anymore, so I've got like 2 goes per month for free. So I just.
I'm on the pro now. You've got me sucked into it. Just ask
got the
me.
New one now. That's 4.5.
Oh, it's good.
Any good? Okay.
I'll
get back in there. $10 for a month. I'll have to try it out. Right. What is the question of the week? What and why be an MVP? So let's sort of discuss this.
Yeah.
So what is an MVP? Shall I give Microsoft's official little sort of heading? It is the Microsoft Most Valuable Professional program recognizes exceptional community leaders for their technical expertise, leadership, speaking experience, online influence, and commitment to solving real-world problems. So what do we think about that? Does that sum up what you do? I'm not sure, but maybe. What's the real deal? What is a Microsoft MVP that we reckon? Mark?
No, well, can I just start with that? when everyone says, I say I'm an MVP. Oh, what does MVP stand for? You're like, most valuable professional. And then like, well, how many are there? And you're like, 3,000. You're like, most valuable, and there's 3,000 of them. So what? So I've got an issue with the name to start with. Just to say that it should be one of a valuable,
yes,
one of many valuable professionals. Is the way that it should be. So I just start with that, and then I'll move on from that.
Yeah,
I find that when I tell people I'm an MVP, they say, "What's that?"
Yeah,
because nobody knows what it is. I feel like it sort of only holds weight really in our circles, in our industry. If you tell just like a regular person, "Oh, I'm a Microsoft MVP," they don't really know what it is. There's not much education about it outside.
Very true.
Yeah. Somebody said, "Oh, but it must boost your ability to, maybe charge a higher price with clients and stuff." And it's just your point, Deb. Nobody knows what it is, so they don't really care. You can just
exactly.
They more care about the fact that they've seen you a lot and they appreciate what you do. It's what you do that they,
I spent 27 years without one.
Yeah.
And I've had it for 2 years, and I can't say it's made a great deal of difference. I think the thing that it does is it's a very quick way in our circles, or if you're pitching to clients, to show that you are credible. Instead of like having to show them what, you could just say I'm an MVP, and people who know will register that, and they're like, oh, okay. I think it also, what I've noticed is that when you become an MVP, it seems to put you on certain lists at Microsoft, so that if things come up, different jobs, they go to the MVP list first of all. Do you know what I mean? That's what I feel it's advantageous for. It's good in like, your YouTube videos to put that you're an MVP, but outside of that, like with clients and stuff like that, they don't know what it is. So it sort of doesn't really make too much of a difference.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's a nice recognition of what you already do. And I think that's because often you get people saying, "Oh, how do I become an MVP? I want to be an MVP." And you're like, "Well, do the things that MVPs do, and that's the thing that makes you an MVP." It's an award that recognizes what you've already done and what you're doing. So when anyone says to me, "Oh, will you nominate me to become an MVP?" my answer is always no, because it's kind of, well, if you are doing the things that would make you an MVP, I would already know who you are. And therefore, if I already know who you are, I would have seen your content around. I would, in our sphere, in our area, and therefore, I would possibly nominate you for that award because I know who you are and I feel you're adding those things into the community. But if I don't know who you are, that means you're not really helping the community, or at least not the part of the community that I see. So therefore, it's kind of I can't nominate you because I don't think you're then meeting those criteria. So I'd say it's a recognition of what you already do. And if you are sharing information, trying to help people solve real world problems, there's a good chance that it will just happen. Someone will nominate you, because there's so many different ways that you can be nominated as an MVP. Some of it is through, through social media. Other people literally do like one-to-one mentoring of other people. And therefore, someone finds out that you mentored, a certain number of people to help them with various things, and that's how you can become an MVP. So you don't necessarily have to be in a huge, here's my YouTube channel, here's my TikTok. You don't have to be sharing content in that way. There's lots of things you can do to be an MVP, and I think as long as you do the right things, eventually it kind of happens.
So talking about bringing up that point of nomination, so the rules are you have to be nominated by a Microsoft employee or another MVP. So that's how, it comes about. And then you sort of got to submit what you've been doing, sharing your knowledge, etc. So you could be a community, like have a meetup group that you're running a lot and putting your time and effort into that. It's got to be free, the stuff you're doing. So, to contribute towards becoming an MVP and maintaining your status, because we do have to renew every year and submit what we've been doing for the year for free. And that might be our YouTube channels or, conferences, presenting at events and all that sort of stuff. So it's that side of things. So there's a bit involved, but like Mark says, you got to do it because you love doing the stuff. There's not enough reward in it otherwise.
Can
I think that's a really...
Oh, sorry, Debbie, you go.
No, go on, Giles.
Well, I'm going to have a rant, so if you've got something, you get it out before I do my rant.
Okay. What was I going to say? I've forgotten now. I'm at that age where if I don't say it immediately, I forget.
Shall I have my rant while you think about it?
Yeah, go on then. Yeah.
I'm a very new MVP, obviously. I got nominated by Mark last year, and you don't regret that for any single moment of your life, do you? No.
It's all your fault.
That thing you just touched upon, like anybody looking to be an MVP, which you can see it a mile away, and it really bugs me. And I've been asked more than once now, would you nominate me to be an MVP? And I think I can probably...
We get the same people.
Yeah, I think I could probably say collectively for all of us, the worst way you could ever put yourself in the scope of being an MVP for nomination is to ask. I just hate it because like you said, Mark, I don't think I wasn't looking to be an MVP. I know it's the same with you, Deb. Like if you're doing stuff, somebody will recognize it. And I really dislike the potential that it becomes a little, who do I like the most? And let's invite these people in, which I said I wasn't going to go too far down this road, but there's elements of that wind me up. If you're doing the right stuff, but like you said, Win, whatever it is, it could be helping people in the community. It better not be because you churn out 6 cheat sheets a week, or I will never leave you alone. You've got to be adding value, and then it will happen. But I don't think being an MVP should be the end goal for anyone.
No, but when I was nominated for an MVP, as you said, like it wasn't even in my brain. I didn't even really know what an MVP was. I've been training for 20 years and never even thought about MVP or anything like that. It's not really until you sort of start to become more prominent online and you get a bit of interest that you start seeing that different people are MVPs. I had a little look as to what it was, and I just thought, I'm never going to be nominated for one of those things, But then when I started posting online and getting a following, I wasn't doing it to get an MVP award. I was just doing it because, I wanted to grow a following for my own selfish reasons, marketing for my courses and things like that. Yeah. So as you said, if you're doing what you enjoy and just putting that content out there, and then somebody recognizes it and says, okay, I think you'd be really great in this program, and they nominate you, then that's great. But as you said, what I've seen over the last couple of years is people now have cottoned onto this, and there is strategy behind. And the whole goal is to become an MVP. So you'll see that they'll bombard LinkedIn with content for a good 6-month period, every day, posting stuff. Somebody will nominate them. And then as soon as they get their MVP, they don't post again until it comes up for renewals. And then 2 months leading up to, they start bombarding with content again. So it's become very kind of almost like strategic in a way. They know exactly what to do to get noticed and get the MVP, which at the moment feels like if you just put a lot of content every single day on LinkedIn, somebody will nominate you to become an MVP. And I'm not 100% sure if that should be the criteria.
I agree.
What's in it for Microsoft? Why do they have this program?
Free testers. People will test their products, free troubleshooters. I think there is also an element of trying to, particularly when they go for I feel like if you have any kind of following anywhere, particularly on some of the newer platforms like TikTok, they will try and grab you into the fold, so that they sort of have maybe a little bit of control over what you're putting out there.
But do you think they do? Do you think I've never
maybe
felt
that's more for the creator groups that they also have, for the different applications.
I've never felt any pressure to be complimentary or not complimentary about anything they do.
No, maybe, I would agree with that.
I think sometimes sort of MVPs can be seen as quiet about the bad stuff, but I think sometimes that's because we can moan straight to the people who build it rather than just moaning to the internet. Now, and that might not be the right thing to do, right? People might go, they're just covering up for Microsoft, but we see things early and we can just go to the people who develop it. What are you doing? What is this? And I'll still have a rant about other stuff online as well. So
I think that's great.
I was just going to say, I do think us collectively probably moan more than most other MVPs, and I think that's a good thing.
Maybe. Maybe.
I mean, to me, what an MVP should be is what when we look in the little MVP forum and you see the emails going back and forth, there's definitely like a core group of maybe like 20 people who are really involved. They're troubleshooting things, they're sending through errors, they're interested in shaping the product going forward. To me, that's what like a true MVP is, somebody who's interested in all of those things, somebody who shares their knowledge as well. Not just that you bombard with videos. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what point I'm trying to make there, but
no, but it's same thing. A love of the program for Excel's point of view and Power BI, and just really being passionate about wanting to make it better and make it there for yourself and anybody else that you share it with, and having that feedback and getting involved. And sometimes we get involved. One of the nice things or the great things about being, if you could talk about upsides, is being on these distribution lists where you're seeing emails going back and forth about products and new features and people's comments on them, and just sharing that with people, and also having access to the developers and the product managers and people like this, and hearing what they're saying and giving them your feedback. And often falls on deaf ears, but at least you feel like you're having a bit of a contribution to something you're really passionate about, right? If you were a car fanatic, you love Ferraris, and you were allowed to have a conversation with the engineers from Ferrari about how they should tweak the engines or the seats or whatever, you'd be loving that. And that's what essentially our equivalent is, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of times. So on various areas of Excel. So someone in the Excel team has reached out to me and said, can I have a call with you about this feature to get your ideas about what you think about how it works? And you end up with a one-to-one call with a program manager, and you literally say, this bit works, this bit doesn't, this needs to change, that doesn't, and that's a real benefit. And you get to know who the people are in the team who can then help with various issues. So you almost know that if you've got a problem, if you CC in that person at Microsoft, there's a chance that you might actually get that issue resolved. And if I think back, there was it's probably a couple of years ago now, they changed something in Office scripts. Now I realize most people probably don't care about that, but it was a significant change, right? It hugely took the product away. It made whole bits of it irrelevant. So admittedly, I didn't realize the whole Excel distribution list was included on all of my ranty emails. But literally there were many of me telling them they had destroyed things, they didn't understand the concepts of this thing and that thing. And within 48 hours, it was changed back. So you're there going, well, actually, sometimes I think because they're all developers, right? They're all trying to create the best product that they can. And therefore, and that's why they have the beta channels and everything else, because they don't necessarily understand the impact that might have on a user. So as an MVP, the fact that you have these email distribution lists that you can send, and you say this thing won't work because of this or for these reasons, well, Microsoft might just go, oh, that's interesting, and then do nothing with it. Equally, there's stuff that they might go, actually, they've got a point there. We should address this. And I'm sure lots of things change because of feedback from MVPs, but some of it's strategic, right? And Microsoft are going to go down that route no matter what. And therefore, you've just got to be like, well, we can't influence that, but the stuff that we can influence. And I think that's a great opportunity about what being an MVP is. And I'm not saying that I'm influenced Microsoft strategy. A couple of times I've had some calls and I've been able to share my feedback in a one-to-one situation. I think that's really useful.
Could I add one thing, which is, I know we said at the beginning, outside of our bubble of, Excel geeks or, Microsoft geeks, people don't know what it is, but the bubble's actually big. So I do think that, when you go to events, that people do kind of put some value, or there's some excitement around meeting MVPs, which is quite cool. But it also makes me worry that if Microsoft dilute it, if it's too easy to get in, you really dilute that kind of category, like the status that it means.
But would you be excited about meeting an MVP if you had no idea who they were? I think it's the recognition of the name and the person rather than the label. It's just like I could be stood next to two different people, and one of them says, "Oh, I'm the God, wouldn't Azure MVP or something, and something I don't know anything about, right? And I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
that's nice. Whereas if they go, oh, I'm, you know,
it would definitely still at the moment make me think, oh, they know what they're talking about.
right? Yes.
Which
Yeah.
isn't like, again, because it's definitely more than just like technical skill that you're measured on in our kind of social media world, is not necessarily the accurate reaction to have. But I probably still would put it in some kind of, I would place some value on it. I hope it doesn't get to the point where we become so cynical where you're just like, oh God, they're literally letting anyone in. Some people probably thought that when I was letting, and then I released a music video, which didn't help things.
My big eye opener when I went to my first MVP summit. So for folks listening, one of the sort of perks is they host a MVP summit in Microsoft in Redmond, Seattle, once a year for a couple of days. So we get to see sort of NDA stuff and all this, which is great if you can get over there. They used to pay for your accommodation things. Apparently back in the day, they used to give away free gifts and all sorts. It's calmed down a bit now, so you have to sort out your own flights, your own accommodation, but first world problems. But the first one I went to was, the eye-opening thing was that the people there, the developers, the people building Excel and the engineers and the product managers, the people in charge of those sort of engineers to some extent, or the ones guiding it, brilliant, super smart, but never worked in a company, never worked.
Yeah.
And never done a day job, never used Excel to do anything. Right. And then they're in charge of all these functions and things. And I think I've heard Rob Colley mention that when he used to work for sort of the Excel team on the Power Pivot stuff, he wasn't really that familiar with pivot tables and other things like this. But he's in charge of them, So it's just, that's why they need the MVPs to some extent, was to give them, and this is especially important when it was a 3-year cycle for developing new releases of Excel and stuff, was you get some feedback on the quiet, whereas now they just release stuff, beta channel, get feedback from a way broader audience. But even before it hits there, they can get a little bit of feedback face to face with us, sort of on advanced features that are coming out in a 6 months time, something like that. So that was the big eye opener for me. It's like, oh, they don't actually know what you use Excel for.
Interesting. Yeah.
Somebody had mentioned previously, and I hope this wasn't under NDA, because it wasn't from an official Microsoft session. Somebody just mentioned it to me about somebody had done some analysis of how much content MVPs put out, and if Microsoft had to produce the equivalent training materials themselves, how much work that would cost them. And it was actually
interesting.
So to Microsoft, they can continue to put out products and provide. I mean, so Sue mentioned, was it Microsoft Learn the other week, which has got a lot of content on it. But previously, Microsoft didn't have a huge amount of training materials. It was all just kind of like, here's our documentation. So therefore, MVPs kind of filled that gap of, here's the tool, now here's how you use it. So MVPs provided a really useful gap between those places. And I think that's why, from a MVP isn't necessarily about your technical knowledge. You can be a really technical MVP, or you can be a not particularly technical MVP. And there's people in the Excel space that they're probably not the most technical people, but they're helping people. And that's the whole point. So even if it's like, hey, you need to understand what a left function does, if that's somebody's need and it helps them with Excel, then they are performing those behaviors that you want from an MVP. They are helping people. But if somebody comes along and goes, well, here's my Lambda function that does all these things and everything else, you're still helping people, but the level of technical skill is quite different. So don't think, and people often think, oh, MVP, you must be really good. You must be awesome at Excel. And that's not necessarily true. The number of times people say, I'm an MVP, and they say, oh, you must know loads of shortcuts. And then I tell them that I probably literally, I mean, I joke that I probably only know 10. The truth is it's probably 15. But they assume that you have a high level of technical knowledge in various areas, and that isn't necessarily the case.
That was my misconception before I became an MVP, because I didn't really know too much about it. But when I thought about it, I thought, oh, it's just this super elite group of people who are, really good, really advanced at Excel, sort of VBA, all of that kind of stuff. That was my perception of what MVPs were before I kind of became one. I didn't realize that, it's it's about sharing your knowledge and contributing. And, I had no idea about any of that. I just thought it was an elite group of super technical people sort of sitting at the top there. And I would never be one of those.
Yeah. I don't quite know the sort of, I'm not comfortable with the label of community leader that Microsoft put on. That's the opening line of what an MVP is. They're community leaders. And, you're meant to be contributing to the community. But I guess it just doesn't sit right with me. I'm just like somebody who likes playing with Excel and sharing what I know, and if other people find that useful, then brilliant. If I get a nice comment on my video. So this thing of sort of influencing the community and sort of, driving the direction of anything, it just doesn't quite sit with me. I know.
I agree with you.
There is one really great thing about being an MVP, and that is that once you've been in this space for a while, there are certain people who don't get the spotlight that they deserve. Like they're not on social media platforms, but they're almost like they're the heroes. They're the people who, in the earlier days of Excel, really shaped the product. And at some point, you might get to meet those people. So I'm thinking of people like Charles Williams, John Peltier, people who've been MVPs for like 20 years. Yeah. You've got Bob Phillips, so people who used to be MVPs, and they've shaped the product over such a huge length of time. And you get to meet them, and much like when and they're not necessarily your heroes, but equally you're like, they had such a huge impact on how the product was, and you get to potentially meet them and talk about how Excel was and their ideas about how that can develop. And that's something that's really nice to be able to do.
Yeah. I remember being sat next to Bill Jelen at dinner at my first MVP.
I was going to say him.
Conference.
Yeah.
It's like, it's Mr. Excel. I'm sat next to him.
I think he'd be top of my list of people that I've not had the opportunity to meet yet, but it'd be really cool to meet Mr. Cool. Excel in person. Yeah. That'd be wicked.
Have you ever had somebody who's excited to meet you because they watch you on like YouTube or different platforms? You have?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
You had somebody come up to you in the street, didn't you, recently?
Yeah, last week was my first sort of random in the street who shook my hand. That was just totally out of the blue and said, "Love your channel," which is great. But the first time it ever happened that somebody, it was just last year at the SQL Bits conference, and which is full of techie people, right? So you're in your home ground there. So people there and in that space. So yeah, quite a few people came up to me and they were like, sort of, "Oh, brilliant to meet you," and all that sort of stuff. You think, really? No.
Somebody came up to me at the Global Excel Summit with a camera with their phone in hand, and I was like, "Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll go and have a picture." And she's like, "Can you just take a picture of me and Chandeep?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." I got excited.
Oh, I bet your ego didn't like that, did it?
Oh yeah,
it made him humble.
Yeah.
Humbled.
It's humbleness. We sort of, how are people doing for time? We've got 5 more minutes just to sort of tie up a few little bits and pieces.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
So something the other day, and so almost what prompted me to pick the topic for tonight was somebody on LinkedIn posted that they'd been nominated and had declined, but they didn't really explain why they declined. And I know why you might not want to be nominated. And because it's extra work, right? Being an MVP is extra. There is extra work involved because you've got sessions to go to and things to attend, and it's only really extra work if you want it to be. Like Mark says, arranging times to have conversations with product managers and all this sort of stuff. So there is extra stuff involved. So it's really a case of, apart from that, though, I think there's only upside. So I'm not sure what the misconception is for somebody to decline it, other than just haven't got time, really busy, and it's not. Is it just it's not of interest, and maybe
that's it. They're just
it's just not of interest.
Has no impact on what they're doing. No interest. No want for extra hassle or perceived hassle. Yeah.
It's just a strange to actually post that you've. Yeah. It's something you just go, okay, no thanks, then you move on. But to sort of bring it up in a long post on LinkedIn, to give it all these sort of, without really an explanation of why you turned it down, just seemed attention seeking, perhaps. I'm not sure, but
because
got a lot of comments, got a lot of reviews.
Microsoft don't really ask anything of you.
No.
So they give you lots of opportunities. So you have the
Yes.
opportunities to join calls. You have the opportunities to go to the summit. You have the opportunities to be involved in lots of things. The only thing that you actually, if you want to continue to be an MVP, or even the first time you're nominated, is you have to fill out an online
Paperwork.
form listing out all the things that you've done, which, let's face it, takes a few hours. Okay, so
It does.
so it might even be half a day or something of listing out all the things.
You mean
done.
you don't keep it up to date throughout the entire year, every day? You leave it till the last minute. Wow, God, you're weird.
But that's the thing you have to do, and it's a bit like when you see that, you might think, you know what, it's just not worth the effort.
Yeah.
And as we said, if you look at, in the real world, if MVP isn't recognised and it's only really in our space, you might think it doesn't actually add anything that I do. If the benefit is primarily, if someone might think if the benefit is primarily to Microsoft, then I just don't need it. And I think that's a fair perspective that somebody might have.
But it seems like it seems weird to have got to the position where you've done so much that you've been nominated and it to also mean nothing to you. Do you know what I mean? Because if you've been nominated, you've probably been doing lots of stuff.
Yeah. I guess it depends on why you're doing it.
I'm going to have to go search for it.
I wonder, why you're doing it as well. Is it because it's a job? You just do the posting and stuff because it's a job? Is it because you love the product and you just want to, you're keen to share your knowledge and find out new things and you love the sort of the real nerdiness about it? I think you got to be into the nerdiness to really want to have a chat with an engineer from Microsoft, right? So, it's understandable. I think that people don't want to do it, but I don't see a downside. I've been doing it for 8 years now, and it just, our renewals are coming up in July, and I don't do anything extra because I'm thinking, I must do more videos because I'll lose my MVP status. I'm very pragmatic of, if I lose it, I lose it, but I would be gutted, So
I'd be devastated. My entire brand relies on the MVP title now.
You just need the humble MVP. It'll just be. Yeah.
I'd be all right with losing it if I felt it was fair. Like if I literally had stopped putting out content and stopped doing everything and then they took it away, I'd be like, okay, that's fair enough. But if I'm still putting out content and it got taken away, that's when I'd be upset about it.
They never really tell you what you need to do either. That's the other thing. There's no. You
don't know what the criteria is.
Criteria, that's the word. Yeah. You don't know.
Yeah.
So have you done enough? Haven't you done enough? How many MVPs?
Has anybody ever been turned away? Like when they've got, curious in that, has anybody ever got to like the stage where they're having the interview and then their application has been denied? Oh, really?
Yeah. I got persuaded to apply by one of the Microsoft staff and got rejected because I hadn't really done very much. So then they suggested, start post. This was like I'd had a few posts on LinkedIn back in the day, but I'd entered the very first Excel World Championships, which is nothing like the one Giles is involved in.
Oh, really?
This was the let's market Power Query and Power Pivot by setting up an Olympics challenge worldwide. So, and it was the launch of the Excel Tech Community website as well. So they were just branding those things and making people post there to bring an audience in. And you had to build a dashboard using Power Query. There were a few challenges every month. And then because I was then answering questions on the forum, I was the first person on the Excel Tech Community forum answering questions. So the Excel guy said, put your name forward. So I did. And they went, nah, not good enough. Not enough stuff.
Oh,
so then
denied.
Fair enough. And that then I didn't know what an MVP was, right? So then I started noticing the word MVP pop up everywhere. I was like, Ken put, Oz just like, right. All this sort of stuff. And then I applied again the following year and got in. And that was 8 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was turned down twice. So I've been nominated 3 times. The first 2 times
I was turned down 3 times.
Yeah, and so
just try and outdo you.
No, but that's the thing is that even if you get nominated, it doesn't mean that you will get an MVP status. And also, between each of those nominations, I did nothing different. So, so it's almost like, did I become a bigger influence on the community? Probably not. Did I do anything different? Did I create more content? No. So it's, even if you get a nomination, you get turned down, just don't worry about it. So if somebody's recognised you as they think you have an impact and you help people, if somebody has nominated you and you get turned down, at some point later, somebody else will say, "Hey, I'd like to nominate you." So just don't worry. I mean, it's a bit annoying because you kind of get you get your hopes up, and then you get the email that says no, and you're like, "Oh, I haven't done enough." The truth is, by doing nothing extra, the next time you might get it. So, don't worry about it too much.
Yeah, it's a good call. Any other thoughts? Just closing thoughts from anybody? Otherwise, we'll.
Closing news, Deb. I forgot to mention this at the start. You and I, we're going to go and see a Japanese metal band. Is it the O2?
It is the O2. Yes.
Okay.
Baby metal. I cannot wait. I saw something on Instagram months ago, and I sent it straight. I was like, if this ever comes to the UK, please come and see this with me. And then, like a month later, they advertised for the O2. Baby metal. It's crazy. Really heavy metal.
I'm a big metal fan, so I knew who Baby Metal were before. So when Giles said, "Do you want to go?" I was like, "Sure."
Well, they've done
They sing
something
in Japanese.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Can't wait.
Excellent.
We'll take some pictures. We'll share some pictures. That feels LinkedIn appropriate. 2 MVPs at a Japanese metal gig in the O2.
It's going to be amazing.
Brilliant. All right. Nothing. I can't top that. So I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone. All right, folks. Thanks for everybody for listening. Thanks for taking part. Cheers, Deb, for helping out. Always enjoy having you on. Cheers for that. And keep on running. And everybody have a good fortnight. And we'll catch you in a while.
Not far though. 5K.
Not far. 5K. That's right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.